remind everyone during public comment we allow 3 minutes, and we do not allow discussion regarding personnel or students.
Don't have everybody back.
All right, who do we have first for public comment?
First, we have Joe Belcher. Okay, Joe Belcher.
Joe Belcher, I'm from Candler. Y'all have to excuse my voice, it's part of the allergies and getting excited that my daughter happens to sing, so I wrote out a box when at a service she had. But I am, some of you may or may not know, I am Buncombe County Commissioner. I represent Ika, Robertson, and Irwin. I am not here tonight speaking on behalf of the board at all. I am here supporting my district. So. Both of my children had the privilege to go to Inca Middle School. It was a lot easier on my daughter than it was on my son, but I guess that tends to happen a lot of times in middle school. I'm very proud of the teachers that supported my children. I'm very proud of that school and that area. And recently I had the opportunity to go back and tour Inca Middle. I was concerned at the differences in the kids were all smiling, the teachers were all doing the same things, but I was concerned about the traffic, the amount of time that was being dealt with on controlling all of that. And so my greatest calling in life has been to be a father and a papa. I now have a 7-year-old that has the opportunity to go through the same system. I did have a chance to decide whether my children went to private school or private Christian school or public school. And I put my kids through public school in the Inca district because I felt so strongly about that group of teachers in that district. And I was not disappointed at all. So I'm here to support the intermediate school. I believe it's a good idea for the district. I believe it'll make a difference in not only the education of our children there, but also I believe it will be a part of a greater economic picture in that area. And I'm excited about that personally. But I'm also excited about the opportunity that my grandson will have. I want my grandson to be able to go through the same school district. I don't want him to have to even have that part of the decision. And with the good teachers that we have, and if we have the opportunity for our teachers to be able to spend as much time possible teaching, that's what I want them to be able to do. And I believe the intermediate school will help achieve that. But I'm excited about the potential, and I would urge you as a representative of that district, but mainly as a father and a papa, I would urge you to support it.
Thank you, Mr. Belcher.
Did I miss the little light?
We don't have
We
one.
don't have.
Y'all don't have little lights.
Just-
We got lights where I'm at. Got a little yellow light going on.
Mr. Reinhardt is the light.
Yeah.
Rick Manheim.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rick Manheim. I'm a fifth grade teacher currently at Kuntz Intermediate School. And I would like to agree with Mr. Belcher, actually. I totally think intermediate's the way to go, especially with the transitioning of the students. Going from elementary to middle seemed to be a nightmare, and I think that the intermediate schools will help to ease that transition for them. But I'm really here tonight to express my support for the televising of the board meetings, regular board meetings. I believe, and I think we all do, everybody that's here, we believe that the work that you're doing and the actions that you take are so important to the children of this county. I know that as a fifth grade teacher, I have wanted to be at many of these meetings, and just looking at the clock right now, it's telling me one of the reasons I haven't been here in the past is because of the amount of paperwork that's come home with me and the work that I've had to do, and I'm exhausted, as we all are, all the teachers in the room, after a day with our students. So I really would like to urge you to pass the televising of these meetings so that we can go home on a Saturday and watch you all in your splendor on our television screens, as opposed to having to be here until midnight or 1 o'clock. So thank you for your ears.
Thank you, Mr. Manheim.
Bob Lang.
I'm sorry, sir, what was your last name?
Blank, B-L-A-N-K.
Blank.
Stopwatch,
Okay.
right here. First, a comment that Mr. Belcher made about making a choice between private schools and public schools. I have a couple of friends who are struggling now with trying to keep their kids in private schools. I have talked to them at great length about how wonderful our experience has been with Buncombe County schools, both at Hawk Creek Elementary for my daughter and at the Reynolds schools. My daughter is now a rising junior. I think it's they've done a wonderful job, and I do appreciate that very much. Normally we get to a point, something like that, when somebody says, however. However, I encourage the board to be as transparent as possible. It would probably avoid the embarrassments that have probably arisen based on the recent WLOS series of coverage. And I think that one of the things that would help, I would speak very strongly for this, is televised meetings. Before I moved down here, I was in Minnesota for many years. I was on the planning commission of a suburb of 40,000 people. They televised all of their planning commission meetings in addition to everything else. So if a suburb of 40,000 people can find a way to televise their planning commission meetings, I would think that for a board that is as important as this is, should be a top priority. It would provide greater transparency. I think it would, I'm sure, have a great deal to do with enhancing public confidence in the board and the way it operates. And I'm at 2 minutes 5. I think that's all I have to say, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Blank.
Dan Hale.
I'm Dan Hale. Starting in April 2012, Lisa Baldwin brought up issues of permits and inspections not being handled properly. That most certainly is not an attack on the maintenance department and their quality of work, but a question of procedure and policy. No accusations of special perks or benefits or outright theft were ever made. This was a life safety issue, but nothing happened. Many months of painful meetings later went by, and then later, September meeting, Dr. Baldwin goes to the effort of bringing Matt Stone, head of building inspections, and Terry Gentry, fire inspector, in to disprove Lisa Baldwin. Greg Fox said he and 5 other employees have electrical license and know what they're doing. He said we call for inspections and we pass. We pull individual permits for larger projects when needed. Attorney Campbell said that if a board member has a concern, to bring them to the superintendent and they will be handled. Dr. Baldwin said that Buncombe County Schools works hand in hand with the inspection department, that not only do they meet NC state statutes, but exceed them. He said that he is transparent. If someone comes to him with concerns of safety, he puts the brakes on. That's how Buncombe County Schools do it. So finally, Dr. Baldwin self-investigates Lisa Baldwin's insinuations and accusations about permits. No problems here. By the way, that'll be $12,000 for that. That must be some report. See what you caused, Lisa Baldwin? unnecessary expense caused by you questioning this perfect system. But wait, the accusations seem to be true. Because along comes Mike Mason of 13 WLOS to do his own investigation. Uh-oh, he found something. I'll bet it didn't cost $12,000. I guess Lisa Baldwin was right after all. Mike Mason found work orders that should have been permitted, as confirmed by Matt Stone. How many more will there be? How many years back does this go? Dr. Baldwin said that this is the way it's always been done. What happened to working hand in hand with the inspection department and exceeding North Carolina state statutes? Who signed off on the subcontracted jobs and made all the proper paperwork and completed before paying? Who's responsible for that? Our transparent superintendent and the board have fought Lisa Baldwin every step of the way on this issue. How many other issues have they fought her on that are also valid? Isn't the board member supposed to bring issues to the chairman and the superintendent, or are they supposed to sit quietly and bobble their head in agreement? Good thing Dr. Baldwin clarified that he makes mistakes and isn't perfect. That should absolve him in all the past, present, and future screw-ups and leave this mess for everyone else to pay for. I'm glad he said that you should all refer back to that video on September 9th, 2012. I got a lot of information from that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
John Sutton.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Baldwin. My name is John Sutton. I'm a parent of two students, well, one who's now a rising sixth grader at Inca Middle School, one who will be in fourth grade at Hominy Elementary. I spoke to you last month in regard to some concerns I had regarding House Bill 361 and really spending money out of the capital fund and how that related to the construction of building a new intermediary school at the Inca district. Tonight I'd like to talk to you, and really I'm here to ask for to vote yes. I want to thank you for having that issue put on your agenda for your consideration of the property for that school. I want to spend a few minutes telling you about how excited we are. In the last month, there's a general feeling. Not only am I a parent at Hominy, I also run a business in the Inca community. I frequent the Greasy Spoon Diners. I'm a product of the Inca School District. I'm a lifelong resident. The general feeling is one of excitement and enthusiasm. Back in 2007, when this board voted to approve the construction of an intermediary school, and it was on the books, it was going to be built. You know, the parent surveys had been done, the consideration of alternatives had been done. We had made the decision that a 5-6 school was the right move, and it still is. And we waited. We watched patiently when Irwin was built. We waited when the Koontz School was built. We watched the STEM school get built. I personally watched my oldest child start kindergarten in August of 2007. I watched that same child go to her last day at Hominy Elementary yesterday. It's time to take a step forward. And this move tonight, I want to commend you on taking that step forward. I want to commend Mr. Belcher and David King and the rest of the commissioners and their hard work. But it's time to move forward. As I said last month, we can get into the whether or not the Constitution guarantees equal education or right to education to every student, and whether or not that has to be equal. That's what this issue really comes out of. We're not asking for more. We're asking for the same. We're asking for equality. We're asking for equal access to cafeterias, equal access to computer labs, equal access to the gymnasium. Those are the basics of the education system.
Mr. Sutton, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tommy Hughes.
Chairman Reinhardt, members of the board, Dr. Baldwin, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I'm speaking about a blog sent by a board member, Lisa Baldwin, from the Reynolds District. And the title of her blog makes this statement, and I quote, "Are you satisfied with the Buncombe School Board?" End of quote. Mrs. Baldwin says that she is not satisfied because kids are not safe, our students are not getting the same opportunities as students in other North Carolina school districts. And in response to her dissatisfaction, I would like to say that I am dissatisfied with her leadership style. A leadership style that encourages fear and mistrust of anyone in the Buncombe County administration. Ever since she was elected, I have yet to see or hear her empower the educational leaders of our school system. Board members are elected to lead, and as leaders, they should empower the administrative staff to do their jobs. Empowerment means, and this is according to Webster's New World Dictionary, and I quote, "to give power or authority to, authorize, to give ability to, enable, and permit." When you empower someone, you are saying that we support you, we believe in you. What can we do to help you do your job better? And where do you need help? And how can we provide assistance that you need to do a good job in leading a great school system like the Buncombe County school system? In other words, this means lifting them up and showing appreciation for their work. I have not seen this in her leadership role. Empowerment does not come from finding fault or looking for ways to make the superintendent or his staff look bad. I could not live with myself if all I wanted to do in life is find ways to make people look bad and glory in what I do at the expense of someone. For the past 3 years, board members, administrative staff, and teachers have been subjected to nothing but fault finding. It's about time to stop this kind of leadership and think about how we can support our teachers and students and empower them to do their best without interference or micromanagement. So, Mrs. Baldwin, I am dissatisfied with your performance as a board member. And lastly, I'd like to say this. I believe in the Buncombe County school system, and is it perfect? No. But it sure could be a whole lot better if all the board members and the community would get behind our school employees and empower them to do their jobs. Thank you very much.
Susan Wilson.
I'm Susan Wilson. I live in North Buncombe. And I want to speak on behalf of adding the new school in Inca, because I think we need it. In Black Mountain, when the elementary school got to be too big, they split it into primary and elementary. Up in my area, we've got North Windy Ridge and we've got North Buncombe. And I think it's time that Inca received the same educational opportunities for their students, not to be in overcrowded classrooms, overcrowded lunchrooms, overcrowded hallways, that they are given an educational opportunity that until a new school is built, they aren't going to have. And so I just simply am going to ask that you vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Pat Ford.
I'm sorry, Ms. Pat. Ms. Pat?
Ford.
For
Oh,
F-O-R-E.
four. Okay, thank you.
Think golf.
Okay.
Well, there's a country song that says, I come from a long line of love. Well, I have that, but I also like to think that I come from a long line of love of educators. And I want to do a little bragging here. My grandmother was a teacher at St. Gilles School back in the day. It was a two-room schoolhouse, and my great-grandfather, she taught with him. And my Ham Felvin was the first superintendent of Buncombe County Schools. I'm standing here before you because I have a long love of education, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of Hominy Valley. And I have to say about that, what I have to say about that is the parents that I had in our support group, they love children in that community. So much so they even voted an extra tax because they said it's not about money, it's about the future of education. And also, I have to say this, I'm really old because 55 years ago, this coming weekend, I graduated from the high school that is now the middle school. Okay, and it was a little bit crowded, I'm thinking back then, so I can just imagine what it's like now. I have to say that what I want to speak to you about is vision and dreams, because the people in my community had a vision about what could be done for the youth and the children, not only of their community, but for the whole county. And also, I went on to Asheville. My father died the night after I graduated from high school, so I stayed at home and went up to Asheville Biltmore Junior College up in the castle. And one of the first things we did that freshman year was we went to the polls and we asked people to have a vision, to have a dream, to buy land for what is now UNCA campus. I think it was a pretty good decision. There were, of course, back then, you always have the naysayers. Oh, we can't do that. It's going to cost money. But there were enough people who said, no, the future is our youth. And a culture is always judged by how it treats its elderly. Well, actually, the elderly are doing pretty good. But how we treat our children. And they need to come, I think, first. So actually, in closing, I want to say that I have been blessed by being in a community that cared for one another, not just for my own children, but for others. And I've had the opportunity to teach at a private school, enjoyed it for 5 years. But you know what? I chose my last 5 years to go back to public education because I love the joy, the diversity, the richness that comes from the other cultures that I was able to have in my classroom. And I don't know what I've done without my teacher assistant, though, I have to say that. A special tribute to middle school teachers. I taught every grade except middle school. I only did student teaching there. And those hormone-driven kids, they know I'm thinking, oh my gosh. The only thing that could be worse would be have them crowded together in a room. I had to go fix them every day. So my tribute to all of you middle school teachers, and I hope you get your scoop.
Betty, and I think it's Boyd.
Hi, I'm Betty Boyd, and she's a real good friend of mine. I hate to follow her, really. But I would just like to say I'm a native, and I grew up in the Inca district, and I also graduated from Inca Middle School when it was a high school, and so did my sons. And my husband and I have been involved in building houses to sell in that area. And I've been acquainted with real estate, so I know how this district has grown and grown. More and more people moving into the district and liking the area so much because of where it's located and close to the Smokies and then halfway next to Asheville also. But we need an intermediate school. I'm a former teacher, and I know what it's like if you have a crowded classroom. You cannot be spread that thin. And I was teaching, and we had to move over to a middle school for a period of time because of building. And I know how it was when the bell rang and the middle school kids left the hall. And I don't want that to be, I know if that's a problem, it's going to be even a greater problem with this area being crowded. And something that hadn't been mentioned is because if we can build this intermediate school, not only will it help Inca Middle School, but it'll help Candler, which is overcrowded, and Pisgah. So if you vote for this, you're voting to help 3 wonderful schools, and we thank you.
Thank you, Floyd.
Cindy Leatherwood.
Dr. Baldwin and board members. I'm Cindy Leatherwood, and I am a happily retired Buncombe County employee for 30 years. But I would like to say that I too am here to support the intermediate school in the Inca district. I had the opportunity to be also working in the North Buncombe district and the Inca district at the same time when the 5-6 school was built at North Windy Ridge. And a few years later, I was fortunate enough to actually work there as a program placement specialist. And if any of you have worked in the middle school or have raised children, have gone to the middle schools can be an insane place because you're putting 900 to 1,200 kids together in the most tumultuous time of their lives and expecting good things to happen. And lots of good things do happen in Buncombe County schools. I have 4 daughters who've gone through, and I have 11 grandkids coming through. And I'm not that old, but my husband is. But I will tell you that outside, and I can say this in front of Suzanne Swanger now because I'm retired, but I do not believe that test scores are the holy grail of the prediction of how someone is going to do as an adult in the future. But I will tell you that emotional security and kids feeling safe in middle schools and elementary schools are one of the most primary pointers toward how successful that child is going to be in the middle school and the high school especially. And North Windy Ridge for years has been this little jewel out in the north, and we've kind of kept it a secret because it was such a great thing. And I was on advisory committees for that school, and Dr. Bobby Short had a great vision, and teachers at North Buncombe Middle went there fighting and kicking because they did not, it wasn't this, it was a new thing. You could not get a teacher or a parent who's had a student go through that school, you could not pull them away from there if you tried. So what I'm saying is we need this in the Inca district. It is sound educational practice. I can't imagine anyone in education or anyone with an education that could not support this concept. So I'm asking all of you, because I know you have an education or are in education, one or the other, to support this concept. And if you don't, then that leaves you as the third person, which I don't think you want to be. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Butler.
Emily D.E.Z. something.
My name is Emily Desio. My husband's actually a teacher at North Buncombe, so we're real proud of Jack Evans and his crew tonight. I'd like to present a series of articles from the Citizen-Times. I think it's around the summer of 2008, and I've got those that I would hand out to the board. It was clear then, as it is now, that the 5-6 school in Inca was and is a necessary improvement. I'm asking for your vote, but I'm also asking for your reflection on the history of where we've been and where we're going. Think about all the exciting things that are coming to Inca. We've got a new interstate exit being built. We are in the works of being built. We've got Biltmore Square Mall outlets coming and a new development across from the soccer park. Business is in Inca, and that's going to bring growth. I want you to decide to be preemptive as opposed to reactionary and vote yes for the school. And you have these articles. Pass them down.
Thank you, Ms. Desio.
Thank you.
Holly Barham.
My name is Holly Barham. I'm also an Inca Candler parent. I have a daughter who's been through the middle school and has had a wonderful education, great teachers. I can't say enough positive things, but definitely has firsthand witnessed the overcrowding from not only the cafeteria and the classrooms, but even the buses sitting 4 to a seat to try to get home in the afternoons. Have to excuse me. And I have a son coming up who even wants, because I feel certain we'll get a yes vote for the intermediate school, who probably won't even be able to benefit from it. But I just hope that everybody will realize the support we've had from the Inca district. It's been my pleasure to move into it and be part of such a great community. We're not native like a few of the people who are here who are speaking tonight, but that also is a testament to what kind of community it is, the people who move off for college and come back and enjoy the beauty of Inca Candler. Again, sorry about the allergies. So I do hope that you guys will vote yes and be preemptive, as Ms. Desio said, not just for the middle school, as we know it is the most overcrowded middle school west of Charlotte, but also for those elementary schools that are experiencing capacity and near capacity as well.
Ms. Vaughn?
Stephen Stone.
Hello, my name's Stephen Stone. I'm a graduated from Robertson '79, former employee of Buncombe County Schools. The stuff Mike Mason has come up with is just the tip of the iceberg. Spoke to you about it, Dr. Baldwin. There's things that have been carried off from down there. There's crimes been committed. I've been blacklisted for over 6 years. I cannot be hired by a Asheville company because of the maintenance management staff. I have lost numerous jobs. I have got jobs in my field, which I am not only expert master technician, but I left here, went to Louisiana, and worked on offshore facilities. They do not send you to an offshore facilities and you have to spend $2,500 just to get to the call if you can't fix it. Now, I'm really fed up with the maintenance staff shooting me down every time I come to a job. There were things removed that shouldn't have been removed. We brought it to your attention, Dr. Baldwin. I'd just like to give y'all each a letter, and a letter that we gave to Wanda Green explaining exactly where this stuff came from. I have invoice numbers, and the P card was abused. We need to research the P card because there's been things carried off from down there that wasn't supposed to be. Thank you.
Mr. Stone?
John Irwin.
Thank you, Chairman Reinhardt, Superintendent Baldwin, board members. I come here as a fellow Buncombe County taxpayer and resident, not as a native, but as a resident of 29 some years or so. I've contributed 3 natives here, all of whom got the wonderful pleasure and honor and benefit of proceeding through the Buncombe County school system, variously through Haw Creek, through Cane Creek, and through Reynolds, 2 of them under the supervision then of Dr. Baldwin. My wife and I are very grateful for the education that they got in that end of the county, in that school system. We moved over here to Candler area, in this area, about, I think it was the summer of 2007, just as these reports were coming out and the need for this school was being documented and then put on hold. My neighbors and friends that we've become acquainted with here have brought this situation, the overcrowding of the middle school, to our attention. And it's become pretty clear to me that it really does amount to a matter of unequal access. We're getting wonderful educational opportunities and facilities out in the north end of the county, on the east end of the county, probably in the south end. We're behind here by this documentation, by the establishment of need in 2007 and by the putting off of it over these several years. The community now asks that it be heard and that it's its turn. I agree with that. I think it's very, very important, and all the benefits already mentioned. I want to throw in one more thought about that, and that is our national conversation has been driven intensely over the last several years about a deep concern over the national deficit and the burden that it will place on future generations. Those future generations are sitting out here in Inca County elementary schools and about to come into those schools. This school can relieve the potential burden of an impairment on that generation now. It is nonsensical to worry about an impairment years and years down the road when we somehow impair and don't address an obstacle and an impairment in their education right now. So we can address this, and I ask you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Irwin.
Michelle Pacewood.
Because I was in trouble before, that was a great idea. I think I'll start my timer, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board, and thank you, I want to thank the Commissioners, David and Joe for coming, and some other elected officials tonight. You've seen me here several times before. I think you know why I'm here. I'm here to beg, if I have to, for our intermediate school. I appreciate that it's on the agenda tonight. I'm glad to see that. It's the step you need to take. I think you know the overcrowding. I've sent you letters and everything else, but I wanted to also bring up a few things. I hear some concerns out in the press or out in the whatever, that this may not be the right place, or we can't do this right now, or we don't have enough input. We don't know. 7 years we've been waiting. When you make this decision tonight to vote yes, you have a due diligence period to investigate any concern that anybody would have. It's a very clear practice of real estate. As a realtor, I know that. So any conversation regarding that is a stall tactic. And it's obvious to the parents of Inca. This has been a 7-year stall. Let's don't stall again. I brought you an article tonight from the News and Observer. Wake County, 2 days ago, their school board just voted for a $810 million school bond. Half of that money is to renovate schools. Half of it is to build new schools. They have excessive growth. I know they're big, but they have waited, and now the taxpayers are paying $810 million. That's 5.53 on their property taxes. We are a good county. We pay as we go. We can't always pay it off. But we make good decisions so that we don't end up having an $810 million bond. We can't let these things pile up. I know you'll make the right decision tonight. Let's take this step forward. Anything else you do is a step backwards. You told us in '07 we would have it last year. The article you have that talks about Irwin, the crowding in the middle school and the other feeders, replace every Irwin word with Inca. We're there now. You knew it was a priority then for them. We have the same priority now. I beg you to do the right thing. Don't make us wait. We can't wait. The growth is coming, and you are the ones that can solve it for us. Thank you so much. I'll leave this article with you.
Thank you, Ms. Wood.
One for everybody.
Stephen Coburn.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Baldwin, members. I'm Steve Cochran. I am a resident of Hominy Valley. Joe, I talk like this because that's where I grew up. I was away for a while living in Nashville because that's where my family decided we'd live for a while, but I'm pleased to be back. But I have to tell you, I've never been disappointed in the school board and the school system of Buncombe County. Through the years, I've watched the decisions we make. Hard times, sometimes you don't get what you want. But over the years, it's always been my pleasure to tell people wherever I'm from that I got my education in Buncombe County, because Buncombe County's always made the right choices. Sometimes it has to be delayed. Maybe that's what's happened. But I'm here to really speak strongly for the 5-6 school. 5-6 school is needed. I'm the clerk of court. I see what the education does when people don't get the opportunities. Frustration is the #1 cause of a lot of problems. If you have crowding, and we have crowding at the courthouse. We just built, we're adding a courthouse, and it's going to relieve a lot of problems, but that kind of crowding is terrible to the advancement of any kind of situation. I'm happy to say, and Mr. Belcher, who I know is a very smart businessman and has been very successful, he sees this as the right thing to do. I don't think there's any question it's the right thing to do. I ask you to do it. It'll be the right thing for the children. If you drive up and down the road in the morning, like I do, or you go back in the evening, like I do, you cuss the DOT every day because he didn't put that exit there at Liberty or Pole Creek or wherever. They should have put it a long time ago. So please do this. The people need it. The people, there's an energy in the Inca district now with 2 people representing them on the county commissioners. We haven't had that. It's been the area of the county that's sort of been out there. And they're really excited now, and they're behind this, as they always have been. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
David King.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Baldwin, Board, David King from District 3, Buncombe County Commissioner. I'm here to speak on behalf of the intermediate school. I've been out, seen the need myself, and we've heard a lot of good comments here. And before I get started, I'd like to thank Michelle Pace Wood for coalescing and bringing all this together and bringing us together as a group to do this. But I'm not going to try to follow everyone's comments. I agree wholeheartedly with them. They're spot on. The thing I would like to address as not only a Buncombe County Commissioner, but as a member of the Economic Development Commission here in Buncombe County, jobs are an important thing for Buncombe County. How we recruit those jobs is schools and cultural amenities and those things that people coming here want for their families. The school will be very important for us as a commission recruiting new businesses. They will come. We need it to keep our county healthy, to keep it viable, and keep it economically solvent. The second thing I'd like to address is cost has been brought up, taxes. We're very fortunate here in Buncombe County to have money set aside through an article called Article 39, and I know the board knows this, but this is mainly for the audience's benefit if they don't know. And we have that money set aside. So this school will not, the building of this school will not impact taxes. The money is set aside. It comes from 1 cent of our sales tax that is there. We pay that as we go, just as Ms. Wood said, and so these schools are funded as they go. And we certainly appreciate your consideration. We appreciate all of the hard work that this board does, and I certainly urge you to vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Lynn Miller.
I'm Lynn Miller, and I taught at Candler, and then I went to the middle school, and I retired, and I still walk the halls of both schools because I continue to volunteer. So at the middle school, twice a week, I'm still in the mess. I am a middle school teacher at heart, and I know what it's like. And when we first started at the middle school in 1986, from the very beginning, we were large, and even then, we knew that Inca and Irwin were the big ones. I retired in 2004, and then I guess it was 2007 or so, there was an article in the paper, and there were going to be some new schools, and I was excited, because I knew finally there was going to be some relief in the district. I'm still waiting. And my heart is in that district, and I just think it's time for us to do something. I've waited long enough. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Jason Moore, I think.
Dr. Baldwin, board members, my name is Jason Moore. I'm here as a parent, 2 rising 3rd graders at Candler Elementary School. I've been extraordinarily happy with Candler schools. They are overcrowded, they are. I know the middle school is much worse. I love the teachers. Our kids have gotten a fantastic education. I want to keep that going. They have a love for that school. Candler is a growing area. It's not gonna get any better. As parents have been watching this, our kids are 9, or getting ready to turn 9. We've been watching this since '07. You know, we knew it was coming. We kind of got disappointed there for a minute, and it was like, oh, you know, this will be fixed. As a parent, I ask you to vote yes to this school. It will alleviate a lot of problems. Candler's big, it's getting a lot bigger. I don't want to see temporary solutions to the problem. I want to see a long-term solution to a long-term problem. And I ask you to vote yes. Thank you.
Linda Humphries.
I haven't been up here since we got so fancy. I do see a green light here, though. Does that mean I need to go? It's not gonna take me 3 minutes to say what I have to say. Tonight, you're gonna be looking at the first reading of Board Member Code of Ethics. First, it speaks to obey all state and federal laws. Speaks to upholding the integrity of the office. Speaks to avoiding impropriety, observing standards. Conduct the affairs of the board in an open, public manner. Board's first and greatest concern should be with the welfare of the students. Again, that's your first reading. In my opinion, this board has been negligent. With all due respect, Mr. Kuntz, this board is not elected to empower the administration. I too spent 30-something years, as I have said before, in this system. I have seen the good, I have seen the bad. I had high hopes upon my retirement as I saw a new superintendent come into this position. I have witnessed internal investigations in the system. I experienced a year of advocating for the special needs students in the Inca district. During that internal investigation, there was no problem. Some of you board's members remember this. And Chris Campbell, if he were here, he would. Dr. Baldwin, you do. It took me 1 year and a crooked attorney in Buncombe County who was friends of the good old boys. I had nothing to gain from this. I just wanted to see that these children got their due process rights. 1 year after that internal investigation, if there was no problem, did the DPI come in and do a 6-week investigation and find you folks in fault on all accounts? The board is negligent. You should have called for an external investigation into this permitting and inspection situation. Dr. Baldwin, there were 45 out of 49 reports. There were life safety reports, which included wheelchair ramps that should have been permitted and inspected. Not outlets, not light switches, as you spoke to earlier. These were serious safety concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Humphries.
Michelle, M.A.
Mamone.
Mamone.
That's okay. I'm used to it. I'm short. My guys, my bedtime. You guys do this every month? I'm Michelle Mamone. I am a parent. I have 2 young children that go to Sand Hill. One just finished kindergarten, and the other one just finished 3rd grade. I am really grateful. Sand Hill's been a wonderful school for us. Carmen Murray has been a great addition and a wonderful principal. The staff has been very supportive of our family, and my daughter Emma, who is the older one, she's 9, has had
high-functioning autism. She's in a regular classroom. This past year, she was also diagnosed with Tourette's, and it was a very difficult time for us. So in February, we really hit a rough road with her not being able to be in school for a little while. But all I heard was, the principal sat down with us, and she's like, we're going to figure this all out. And even the staff, and we got a good IEP, and so we're really happy. We were considering last year looking for another school for her just because we felt that it was just too big. And she was having so many other social issues. And it got us thinking into the future of, we've had many discussions, my partner and I, about, I don't think my child's going to be able to tolerate middle school, at least Anchor Middle. And I'm not saying through that because I don't really know all of the details, but just from other parents in the community have not had a lot of good positive things to say about it. And a lot of it is the overcrowding, and there's, just negative stuff. Teenager stuff. Anyways, with the larger sizes, it's just not, it wouldn't work very well for my daughter. We have considered transferring, and since my partner works in a Robertson district, we have thought about going to Coons if we don't have an intermediate school, but I really feel that this would definitely benefit everybody. And I'm not involved in the board or anything like that, but it seems like a no-brainer if there's money and the willingness and property. And I'm not sure why there's a stall in not having this done. But again, I'm kind of a simple gal. I just don't think too far out of the box, but it just seems like everything seems to be in alignment for this. So I hope you all will vote yes, because this is definitely going to be a positive step for our district to have more jobs and have kids be happier, the teachers will be happier, we hope. And maybe it'll help calm some of that hormonal stuff, and we can work our way into 7th grade and not just all of a sudden be thrown in there with those kids. So I appreciate the time, and Michelle, thank you for asking me to volunteer to speak. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mamon.
Janet Burho-Jones.
I'm Janet Burho-Jones from somewhere. I'm taught in Georgia, Virginia, and North Carolina, so I appreciate what the teachers are going through with the Common Core. Many of you may not know that was put in, I think it was voted on in 2010, and it's untested, so there's a bill now which will probably become law to study it before we implement any more of it and try any more. There may be other things that are better. So that's one thing the North Carolina House is doing. For more information on that, there's a website, nchouse115.com, that can tell you about a lot of education bills that are going on. I also thought that we were not supposed to make public attacks from here, but since somebody's already done that, I would like to make a public compliment. I appreciate very much what all the board members do, the time that they spend and doing their homework. And I think that Lisa Baldwin has done more and reported more to constituents than anybody that I've ever heard of in the 3 states that I've lived in and taught in. And I very much appreciate what she has done and the homework that she has done, the professionalism that she has shown, and the intellect. And there's a whole lot I would not have known from the press or the school board. The newspaper, daily paper, doesn't cover it at all. I don't know how else we would know what goes on if she didn't send out her blog. Whether or not we agree with it, it's fact-filled and full of her homework. Whether or not we agree with it is another matter. But I don't know who spent more time and done a better job of informing the public than she has. And I feel sorry for the board with liability issues that may lie ahead because of the irresponsibility of your superintendent with safety issues, I would be concerned about sitting on the board and building a new school with somebody who seems to waive the law. That would bother me a lot, and I would think about that real hard. Also, as a taxpayer, I would rather have seen that money that's going back to re-inspecting those things, or inspecting them in the first place, and repairing them, maintaining them. I would rather have seen that money go to teachers or school books or something else, and I don't think we're out of that yet. We're not through with those expenditures. So I'm sorry that your superintendent is above the law. I'm sorry for taxpayers, and I'm sorry for students. But I'm excited about the new school. I
Thank
hope
you, Ms.
that goes
Jones.
well. You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the action agenda.
Thought she called me name.
First on the action agenda, we have budget amendment number 7. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any discussion or questions?
I have some questions for Ms. Parker. Again, Ms. Parker, I do want to thank you for all the detailed information that you're now giving us on our budget amendment so that we can make informed decisions. I so appreciate it, and I hope the next CFO will continue this practice. I just need help understanding where the expenses are coming, how you're paying to fix all of these safety issues, all of these jobs that were not permitted and inspected, and now we're having to bring up to code, fire code violations. I know Matt Stone said on WLS that tens of thousands
Ms.
of
Baldwin,
tax dollars.
that's not part of this budget
Yes,
amendment.
well, I'm trying to find out where it is. Is it in the budget amendment? Where will this money be coming from to pay for all these expenses?
I don't believe there are any additional expenditures. My understanding of the news reports is simply work that county staff that's already on the payroll is doing. I don't know that there are any additional expenses either for the county of Buncombe or for us.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Give me just 1 second. Okay. We have next on the action agenda, the recommendation to start broadcasting our meetings using an outside source starting in August of 2013. Is there a motion to this action agenda item?
I'd like to make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Churchill. Okay, we have a second. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like for Mrs. Blunt, I think, prepared to give some information that would be relevant to the board as you're discussing this.
As per the board directive at the last meeting, I did research on local vendors, and by local, some of them, all of them have a base here in the Asheville community. Some of them have bases in addition in the Washington, D.C., Charlotte, or Louisiana areas. I contacted 10 different companies. And when I say company, I'm going to use that term loosely. I should probably say entities. Most are companies, but there are a few private people who have their own semblance of a video outfit that they could come in and do. They aren't necessarily companies, but most are. Of the 10, I had 6 who actually responded that they were interested in providing the service and gave me a quote. The cheapest of the quotes received was from one of the people I was describing as not exactly a company, but a person named Grant Gillette, who apparently has experience and equipment in this area and has people that would work with him. He gave us a quote of $800 per meeting, and that was the lowest of the quotes of the 6 people who gave me quotes. The highest quote was $6,000 to $8,000. I had, I had another one that was $4,000 to $5,000. I had 2 that were in the neighborhood of $2,100, one at $1,200, and one at $1,000. Of those, the one that came in at $1,000 was the one that I was quite honestly most interested in, because he is Tim Amos, who is the Cable 16 administrator. So he's already running the cable channel. He's a retired person who, for a number of years, had worked with Asheville City Schools and then does operate their equipment. He has been taping the Asheville City Board meetings now for some 17 years. So he's very able to produce a video that would be similar to what you see on Asheville Cable. He also provided me with a DVD so that if anyone after the meeting would care to see that, I'm not prepared to show it right this minute, but if you want to see what they look like, if you haven't already checked it out, you can certainly do that. The companies that I contacted, just so you are fully aware, are, in addition to Tim Amos, Asheville Video Productions, Asheville Multimedia, B-Clip Productions, and I think that's one that maybe Ms. Baldwin had contacted a year or 2 ago. She had gotten a quote of $750, I think, if they told me correctly. But once they heard that what we actually wanted, and I gave everyone the same, just so you're aware, everyone got the same information. We wanted a 3-camera shoot where 1 camera at least would be static, so you don't need an operator for that camera. 2 cameras preferably would be operated. Some people wanted to have their camera operator kind of set up a shot and run back and forth, and that's okay, that's fine. They would have a switcher here, and they would be able to provide an output suitable to air on Cable 8 or Cable 16 or and/or on our website, absolutely our website, absolutely cable, and then preferably I asked them if they would have the ability to do live streaming on social media as well. So they all had the same information and came back with the same quotes. So Asheville Video Productions, Asheville Multimedia, B-Clip Productions, Rock Creek Productions, they're the ones that were the $6,000 to $8,000. They do really good work. They make you look great. Asheville Video Production and Photography, Grant Gillette, and Golden Manatee Productions, and Independent Arts and Music, Josh Blake. So we had a wide range. I feel very comfortable in saying that we'll be able to do the production. I will tell you that Tim Amos, he came out, as did Mr. Gillette, and they looked at this room. They looked at what they would have to do. Mr. Amos would be bringing a live truck and parking it somewhere in the vicinity of the entrance that's where the CEC entrance was. He'd pull up as close as he can, run cable in. One of the issues, if you look at the door, you can see that there's not any room to bring the cable in. So what we would have to do, and we actually looked at in some of the adjacent offices across the way, we bring it in, run it across the hall there, and have to leave that door open, or the other door. But a door will have to be left open sufficient for that cable to get through, unless y'all want to drill a hole in the door, which is okay with me, but we'll have to do something to get the cable in. So that would entail his live switcher out there. His son, by the way, who would help him with that production, has worked for NBC, ESPN, and MTV, so he's a very good videographer as well. He did have a stipulation that if it goes, he gave me a $1,000 quote, which originally it was $1,100 and I coughed, and he did manage to come down to $1,000. But he does add the caveat that if he goes into more than 3 hours, we're getting close, over 3 hours, it would be an additional $250, even if it just goes 5 minutes into that next hour. So there would be a possibility that he could go higher than $1,000. But what he guarantees is that his product would supply us with the website, the chapters for the website, and definitely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, can just go right directly that night to cable 16 and get on, because he'd take it there himself. So that's a big guarantee to have. FYI, he told me, and I confirmed with Charlie Glazner, that for their Asheville City Board meetings, they do have, and this is just an FYI, not anything really relevant to this discussion, but they have 4 students who operate their cameras for that meeting. All of those students are paid $50 each, so for future reference down the road. So, anybody have any questions?
Ms. Blunt, I have a question. Do any of these potential companies require a certain period guaranteed contract?
You mean in terms of how many months?
Yeah, well, I mean,
I told them that it was slightly flexible, that we just didn't know what the scenario was going to be with this room. I told them I thought 6 months, and that's what we kind of based everything on. They know that they're going to charge us per meeting.
Right.
So it didn't really matter. Now, B-Clip Productions was going to charge $700 just to come out and scope this room. So that would be a cost regardless, and I included that. To get there, they actually gave me a figure of $12,854 total for the 6 meetings. If it was only 4 meetings, it would be a little bit more than that 2,000 or a little less, because I divided that by 6 to come up with the 2,100 approximately.
Well, I would think that maybe we look at maybe a 6-month contract, whoever we decide to go with, see how it goes, if that's what we like. I don't want to get into anything too long-term, especially since we're going to be moving and that kind of thing.
Well, and another option for you, that, as I said, the cheapest quote we had was from Mr. Gillette with 800. He gave me a drawing and everything he showed me. In fact, I'm sorry, I meant to tell you this too. He would not use a live truck. He would set up here in the boardroom with a small portable switcher and feed into that, so we wouldn't have the cable issue with him. Not tried and true, has never done this before. So what we could do, if you would like, and you can give me direction, is to, if you wanted to give him a try and see, we could always do the August meeting, on a trial basis and see how that goes. If we're happy with it, then you can continue with that, or you can go ahead and decide to, go with either Tim Amos or whoever you want. I'm not in favor of any one of them. I don't really care, but.
Board, your thoughts on that?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I actually just had one question about the additional, is that $250 additional per hour or?
Per hour.
Okay. And then do you know how long the meetings would be running on the cable TV?
We, especially for the public, we share the cable 16 channel with 3 other entities, the City of Asheville Public Schools, AB Tech, and UNC Asheville. And so there's 4 of us who ask for time on the channel, and they kind of juggle that. It can run, I would think, any number of times a week in a varying time. That's kind of what they do, is they'll, checkerboard it across the week, and that would go on for the month, and then they would change it out with the next tape.
So it goes for the whole month?
Oh,
then?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it would run as long as we want. You could run it forever if you wanted to, but you'd have, then when you add the next one, that's a long chunk of time, when you're talking about a 3-hour block.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about television shows being 30 minutes or an hour, 3 hours is a pretty long time to monopolize that channel for that length of time. So how many times it would run, I don't know, but they would probably publish the schedule. We certainly could publish the schedule of when it would be on for cable. And again, that's in addition to having it on our website, so people will be able to see it on our website as well.
I have a question about the internet as well. I've heard that there's no cost to set up a YouTube channel. How will people be able to view it on the school website? Will they have to go through several different
They'll go to our
tabs?
website just like they do now for the audio.
Because right now, it's very hard to get to the audio, because you have to go to the Board of Education and then go to the agendas and to audio. So I didn't know, is there going to be a button maybe on the front page of the website that would directly link people to that video?
Could be.
Yeah,
We have everybody in the
spending
school
all that
system
money.
who wants to be on the front of the website, so we just have to
All
decide
that
that.
money, we need to make it really accessible to people. Does
the Buncombe County Commissioners, did they follow this similar, of having the 3 cameras? I mean, I've watched their videos, which seem to be very well done. Are they using 3 cameras too?
They're either using 3 or 4. Ms. Churcher, you went with us, do you happen to recall?
I know that it was at least a 3-camera system, but I think actually there actually were more if I think about it. I know that it was a very high-tech operation that they had going on there.
And they're using what we plan to use when we move to the other boardroom, which are wall-mounted pan tilt cameras that can be remotely controlled by one operator, and that's our plan for that other boardroom.
My recommendation would be that we try it for the month of August and see how it goes.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask some questions too,
Yes.
please? The cost that you referenced, staffing, manning those cameras, doing all of the work, how much of your time and/or your staff's time will be involved in that, or are we totally turning it over completely to whomever is chosen to do so? And with that, I don't watch, I'm sorry, Mr. King, Mr. Belcher, but I don't watch the county commission meetings on television, so I may ask some dumb questions here. But I've heard you talk before about captioning, whose name, who's speaking,
And that
all
would
of
be
that
part
type
of
of
this.
thing.
Part of the quote does include standard titling, and by that I mean your names would be built, we would build those, what they call lower third super, bottom super for you all. Anybody who's a normal, regular, every month speaker. For the public, for public comment, I'm sorry, I won't know your names in advance, so I can't build your names. But that's normal, you won't see that done on any other government channel either. But anybody who's got a set presentation that we would know in advance, and that's one of the things when you ask about our time, we would take our time to create those titles and or work with the titling. It depends on what software they use. We can either build them ourselves in Photoshop and they can use them, or we'll work with them to have those titles done, and an open and a close for the show. And then I've also volunteered the use of Chris Cromie on my staff, who is, has done news videography before, to help and be available as an unpaid, paid as part of what we do. So I'll swap out hours somewhere else, but he would help with that. So the only person they're having to actually bring would be their person running the switcher and at least 1 or possibly 2 camera people. But we plan to set up 1 static shot, so we should only have to have that 1 other camera person under most circumstances.
And again, just so I understand it, all of that's going to be run by not by you.
They will have the equipment and they will operate the switcher and the title, calling up the graphics. With a meeting video, unlike if you're shooting a documentary or one of Miss Christy Cheek's wonderful STEM videos, what you're doing is you're shooting with 1 camera usually, and you're putting those pieces together in the editing. So there's a lot of post-production, a lot of work after the fact. With a meeting video, it's just the opposite. You are producing in advance, you're pre-producing your title graphics, you're making sure that the presentation that's going to be shown, Ms. Cheek's logo for the CTE, all of that stuff has to be put into the meeting video as it's shot. So some of that will entail some pre-production work on our end, just preparing for it. So I would say from noon on a board day through the board meeting and just a little bit of time afterward, because we will have to tear down the equipment afterward, and we'll help them with that. That will be our commitment in time for the most part, and they will help do that.
And as we move into the new facility, or the new auditorium, minitorium, whatever the correct terminology is, where that's going to be part of the planning and coming in some point in time, 6, 8, 10 months, whatever it winds up being, the production of those same meetings that we're planning for will fall back to you and Chris?
And that's a really good question. I think we'll have to have some discussions internally. That can be the case. Most entities who are doing this type of production have full-time video people who are doing that. And they're also producing additional programming, which we would love to do.
Right.
There are also entities like our neighboring Henderson County who their Bill, wave at us, Bill. Our Bill is running the camera as well as the audio for Henderson County. So there are other options. Our IT department is sorely understaffed for the work they do, but they would be the logical other people who have some expertise. Chris has done video, but Chris is not trained to do meeting video. He has not done switcher work, before ever. I have, but I can't do everywhere.
There's still an issue down the
We're
road for
gonna
that
have to
part that's
figure
gonna
out
have to be
who's
worked
gonna,
out.
yes, we'll have to have at least 2 people dedicated to do that. And ideally, at some point, maybe we will be able to use some students, but again, that's one of the reasons I wanted to tell you, they are also paid, and they are right there in Asheville, convenient, so we'll just have to see. If we can do it with volunteers, terrific, but you have to have somebody's got to be trained on the equipment, and you don't want to have to start from scratch and train somebody new everywhere, maybe. That would be ridiculous. So.
Any other questions or comments?
I was just going to say, do we need a contract? Have they mentioned a contract? Or?
I think we would certainly do a contract, and I would want to make sure that you all knew what we were entering into. I mean, it's a low enough amount of money. Ron, are you here? Ron's in the back, that Ron guy.
And can I clarify, because now that I've said that and it's come out of my mouth, it didn't sound right, I guess. As far as a contract, would we have to contract a specific number of months, or can we go month
I think we can do whatever we want.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to us. And I mean, my preference, just because people can find other things to do, and there weren't, just from the number of people I called, even though I told you the 10 we sent, I probably contacted about 20 people that just they don't even do this kind of work. So I wouldn't want to suddenly discover that someone was tied up doing a football video. I mean, Mr. Amos, he does a lot of the sports videos for, he does some of this production work that's done for Channel 13 on their sports stuff, high school sports. I wouldn't want him to suddenly discover there's a Thursday night game and he can make $5,000 doing that game versus you. So I think after maybe the first trial run, I'd like to lock in at least through football season. But.
And I just, being the author of this recommendation, I just once again wanted to say, if that's okay, I guess I should have asked you. Some of the reasons that I think that this would be a good thing for our board meetings. Most importantly, it is my belief that the public should not have to rely on one individual's blog for information. They should be able to get the information firsthand, and that would include video and audio, and be able to get it when they want the information. I also see this as an opportunity to showcase the good things that are going on with Buncombe County Schools, and we just spent an hour watching one person after another come up and talk about the good things that we are doing, and I think that that is so much more important than the 30-second clips that they put out about the bad things on the news, and we would have that option to do that. We owe it to our staff members who can't make the meetings but are directly impacted by the decisions that we make. They should be able to have access to see what we're doing. And the other thing is that I feel that we can also integrate these meetings into lesson plans, with civics, and expose the students to things that will potentially impact them. They may have more interest in what's going on that's going to affect their schools. Maybe they'll pay attention in class a little more. So, I'm not David Letterman. Those are my top 4.
Great.
Thank you, Amy. I hardly agree with everything you said. I would greatly appreciate the broadcasting, reporting on the board actions every month. It takes a lot of my time, but of course it's well worth it for the public to know about the actions taken during these meetings. Also, I have a question about the cost is what I'm a little concerned about, and how much, did you find out how much the county commissioners are paying for that, the 3 cameras, or are these county personnel that are doing the commissioners' fees?
They have a full-time videographer who makes approximately $50,000 and he is responsible for their meeting video. He also produces programs for their cable channel.
Well, I wonder if we could look into an intergovernmental agency agreement, just like we do with lots of other things, like the volunteer fire department, where we don't charge the county any rent for rentals to use the school property where the department's located. Because if they already have a full-time videographer, we're a county, we're supported by the county commissioners, we're part of the budget. Is it possible that they could do this for us too? That could be part of that person's duties?
Ms. Churchill, I don't know whether you remember the answer to that. I believe it was not only no, but
Heck no.
They did not seem to show interest at the time. One thing I guess is if we needed to add a staff member at some point, maybe they could be the person that would also help develop, what's the word, the staff developmental videos that we can put out to the system. I mean, I would see that their job would maybe be more than just coming to work at the board meetings.
And that's what most county governments or school systems who have any kind of video presence, typically they aren't just doing meeting videos that are once a month. They do use their cable channel. We haven't used our cable channel hardly at all because we haven't been staffed to do that. There definitely are options down the road. One ties in beautifully with the STEM school. It's one of the things we talked about several years ago, which is digital media is not going away. You're going to want to incorporate videos into what the students are learning. So if you have someone who can maybe teach some of those classes without being a full-time teacher, but at least work with those students on those projects, which could create some programming for the STEM school, who could go also out to the schools. We did manage to get a grant a number of years ago to put a small little rinky-dink camera and a laptop with some editing equipment in every school. So the middle and the high schools all have some equipment, but it's beyond my capability to run out and help those students at every school. If we had somebody down the road who could do that, I mean, that would make a great amount of sense, both instructionally and providing. The biggest request I get, honestly, is for professional development. People want someone to tape professional development. And we can put the equipment in, and it can be operated remote control, but there still has to be a body in there to actually run the equipment, even on a low-end staffing situation like that. So absolutely, there's great opportunities. Budget and how you fund that is another question. So. Any other questions?
Well, I didn't have another question, but just as a comment, and I'll be brief, I think it's important that we all not just vote, but how do we feel about it. I can't even, I appreciate the way you've elaborated and the thoughts you've made, but as I continue to look back in the best interest of students, I can't in good conscience support this now for 6, 8, 10 months at $6, $8, $10,000 when we've heard a report from Dr. Baldwin tonight on where we are with teacher assistants. That's money that directly impacts kids, the teacher assistants. This doesn't, in my opinion, one person's opinion, doesn't directly impact the students in our classroom. So I won't be supporting this, not because I'm against us being on television. If we'd come up with a plan or somebody was willing to do something for free, I'd be all for it. We're taking, as part of the STEM high school project, Mr. Fairley, and being able to create something so that down the road in 6, 8, 10 months, whatever it winds up being, we're able to do that for the public. And I just can't, in good conscience, support it now to spend the extra money. So I'll be voting against the motion. Is that the correct term? Motion.
So voting for this recommendation will be, if we vote yes, we'll be directing the administration to move forward with this, and we'll do it on a trial basis.
Well, it says until we have moved into the new boardroom.
If you want to make it more specific,
then you need to change it.
Okay.
The only thing I'm suggesting about a trial basis is if you wanted to go with the very bottom bid of 800, which you don't have to do. You know, I guess for safety's sake, my personal preference would be to go with Tim Amos, because I know he's going to have it on the cable channel the next day. I don't know whether Mr. Gillette can make that happen, and for $200 a month, I'd almost give it to you, because it would be worth it for my peace of mind, but that's up to you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I agree with Mr.
Bryant down on the other end. Philosophically, I'm interested in what Ms. Churchill had to say. And it gives me reason to think. However, we are on the brink of construction in this building with a plan to develop a room that would be able to do this without a tremendous expense. And it seems like, to me, that spending the money at this time, knowing what we have planned, is poor judgment. And I vehemently oppose any expenditure at this juncture in light of the budget that we do not know and the financial situation that all indications are we're going to be faced with. And that includes hiring people or letting people go, which in my opinion is much more important than this. I will not be voting in favor.
Ms. Churchill, it's your motion. Do you want to leave it as presented, or would you like to modify the motion?
I would be fine with modifying the motion for the trial basis of starting with, or trialing with the August meeting.
I have a question real quick first. Mr. Bryant and Ms. Franklin, didn't you both vote spending $850,000 additional dollars on the STEM school for an auditorium that the board could use to broadcast? So you're telling me you're not willing to spend $800 a month, but you're willing to spend $850,000 for a room? This room's perfectly fine. I never have a problem with it. I don't know. I voted against it because I don't know why we need another auditorium just so we can broadcast our meetings. And a STEM school could also use it, of course, but they won't have any performances. There's no performing arts program planned for that school. How can you justify that, Ms. Franklin and Mr. Bryant?
We voted for the STEM school in an entire package.
You did. That included the $850,000. You didn't object to spending that $850,000 to broadcast a meeting.
No, I didn't.
Okay. All in favor of
I think she wanted to. She wanted to clarify or amend her motion.
Yes, amend the motion to read that with the August 2013 regular Board of Education meeting, we will trial a contract with an outside source to broadcast the August meeting to the public.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Okay. All in favor?
So now you're just voting on the amendment.
We're voting on the amendment.
You're not voting on the main motion. So don't think you're voting to have something done in August on this motion.
We're just simply voting
On
to
Ms.
approve what her
Churchill's
thoughts are as to
amendment.
what she would like the motion to be.
All
I
in
could vote for
favor,
that.
please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
I said, I mean, I had my hand up, aye.
Okay.
I'm not going to vote for the motion, but I'll vote for her choice of an amendment to the motion.
Can I get a half of it?
All right.
I have no problem with anybody's amendment to a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
The main motion is on.
Now the main motion.
Amended motion.
Okay. All right, so,
No, I didn't vote.
all right, so everyone for?
What are we, on the motion or the amended motion?
On the amendment, I'm fine with her amendment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so back to the original motion. Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
3, all opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's a tie, so it goes nowhere. Right. Okay. All right.
Does that mean it's tabled? Or
It means it dies.
It
doesn't-
is,
I mean, it's certainly, the board can place it on the agenda again if it wants to. So when I say dies, it dies for
and while I would, and maybe I'm out of order, Mr. Chairman, while I do oppose it, I think we ought to have a vote on it, and I would suggest that at the next meeting, when will that be? July, August, whenever the next time is, that it be put back on there, and so that we have a resolution to it and not have a tie.
Okay. We can do that. All right, so we're going to move on. The next item
Because that doesn't
on
do
the
the
action
public any
agenda
good.
is the consideration of a contract to purchase property for a new intermediate school. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any questions or discussion?
I
All
do
in-
have some questions. And hold on just one second while I get mine. I would really like to see us have a public hearing regarding the Inca Intermediate School and other options that are available for the Inca District. I completely sympathize with those parents and students at Inca Middle School. I went over there last year, toured the school. Mr. Keever was doing an excellent job. It was very organized and orderly, change of classes. So we've been very blessed to have someone like him there. But I think if we had a public hearing, everybody could find out about what's going on. I think only a select few individuals have been privy to this information, ones who were here tonight. One lady referenced being called by Michelle Wood, who's sort of headed up this effort, which is fantastic, and that's the way it should be. But I think all the parents have an opportunity to ask us questions before this decision gets made. Usually a best practice is to have a parent interest survey before you build a new school, and this has not been done. Yet we're going forward with spending maybe nearly $2 million on some property. So I'd like to amend the motion that we table the decision to purchase property until we
That's
can
not,
follow
that's
best
fine.
practices.
You just want to move to table the motion?
Well, I
You can't
want,
amend a motion by saying, I move to table it.
Then there is no motion.
okay,
Just
I'll
tell
let
me-
me amend it. I move that we consider the purchase of the Inca property after having a public hearing.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, any other questions or discussion?
I have some more questions. I'm wondering why we're completely throwing this capacity report out the window. We have some excellent data here that shows we have schools that are well under capacity. We have Valley Springs at 53%, Cane Creek Middle at 85% capacity. I'm sorry, Cane Creek is at, it is at 85%, sorry, capacity. So we have schools that are under capacity right now that are not balanced. We have a population prediction is relatively flat for the next 5 years, with just a small amount of growth predicted. I have asked that we use models and gave an example of Wake County, just like Michelle Wood gave, that they have developed these very precise models because they have used choice in their school system where parents can choose the schools they want their kids to go to. So they absolutely had to know how much room was in those schools. They needed to know about population growth, so they developed precise models. I think, before we make a big decision to spend tax dollars like this, we need to look at getting some very precise data about population growth. We can't just say putting in an exit is going to increase the student population. We got to have some facts to back that up, some figures and some projections. I also wanted to mention that our facility report is only talking about brick and mortar capacity. It is not talking about the use of modular units. Modulars are an excellent way to manage student population. Again, Buncombe County already owns 127 modular classrooms. And some teachers like those classrooms because of the privacy that they have. We as a board should be implementing a policy, a district policy, that says we want all of our school space utilized. Like, for example, I gave you information from Wake County that they have a policy that 95% of space must be utilized in elementary and middle schools and 98% in high schools before they build new schools. It's our job as a board to set the policy, and then the administration has to figure out how to implement this. So they would come to us with options and different plans, thinking out of the box and being creative. in ways to determine what the optimal solution is for Inca. And we have to look at, I haven't seen any data on the competition. We have 3 charter schools that are proposed to open in 2014. The Franklin School of Innovation may be in the Inca district, and this is a 6th through 12th grade college preparatory public charter school. So we need to consider the competition out there. As I mentioned, the population trend that Mr. Fearley gave us is relatively flat to little growth in the next 5 years. If you look at Inca Middle School over the past 12 years, the graph that we have in here, it shows it was the same, virtually the same population. In fact, about 4 more students in 2001 versus how many students are there today. And, you know, nothing was ever done about it. So is it truly overcrowded, I guess you could say. I mean, if I go by only the data here, and I don't believe that we should just go by the data, the core capacity of that school can hold over 200 more students. It says that the cafeteria space will accommodate over 1,200 students. So I know I can't just go by the data, but I'm hoping my data is accurate. I'm trusting Mr. Fearley that he's got accurate data here for me. As a board, our strategic plan that we all adopted said that we would be a data-driven school system. So we can't just throw this out the window. We have to use the data. We have to ask for the best data we can possibly get. We also have to look at legislative impact. Right now there's a bill to offer scholarships to children whose educational needs are not being met by public schools. And this would be based on their income. There's already a tax credit for special needs children whose parents decide to send them to a private school. And now we're looking at a bill that may offer scholarships. So this may cause our numbers to drop if this bill passes. We also have to ask, is this fiscally responsible? We have the public's trust and the best interest of students at heart, but we are over $130 million in debt right now. I have not seen a debt repayment plan. I don't know how much Article 39 sales taxes are going towards the debt. We have to look at the opportunity cost. If we were doing due diligence to this process, then we would be asking for a risk assessment. This is what other school districts do. What are we giving up if we have to spend that Article 39 sales tax? It'd be $22 million for an Inca intermediate school. That means we're going to give up digital learning opportunities for our children as soon as the bill passes. It's out there right now, have been assured repeatedly, just the other day even again by Representative Ramsey, who is sponsoring this bill. So our students will have to go more years without having those laptop computers that other school districts have. It facilitates academic achievement. It helps children learn at their own pace. So we are foregoing, opportunities for our children if we put our money in brick and mortar. We also have the issue of whether this site you're considering does have contamination on it. The inactive hazardous waste sites lists BASF American Inca as a hazardous waste site. They're monitoring wells on the property. Where's the data? Do you have that for me tonight to show me that this property is not contaminated? I don't know. These are questions a board member is supposed to ask. These sites are on an inactive hazardous waste list because they are not actively being cleaned up. Do we want to put our children at possible risk? So, there's so many questions out there. I truly feel that we do not have enough data to make the right decision for these students. Other districts are redrawing attendance lines. This is not something we do on a regular basis. We just did it when we opened Coombs Intermediate School. We did it when we opened Cane Creek Middle School. But yet nobody has even looked at that possibility. It would not cost taxpayers anything and would leave that money, that Article 39 money, to be used to repay the debt and to facilitate professional development for teachers and digital learning for our students. Do we want to continue to invest in brick and mortar when we have all these empty spaces in our schools? That's the big overriding question. And I would like to see our board set policy that says we want to utilize our schools, our space, before we build more schools. Utilize the existing space that we have, maximize its efficiency.
Mr. Chairman, may I make 2 comments real quick, just for clarification for all the board members? First thing I wanted to clarify to you all, especially the folks who were not on the board in 2010, the board actually considered the purchase of this property in 2010. I think that's important for everybody here to understand. The parties could not reach an agreement on the price. That was really what stalled the negotiations. So thanks to, I think, a few gentlemen in the audience, that we've been able to come to an agreement on a price. What you are being asked to approve tonight, or what is before you, I should say, is not the purchase of the property. It's the contract to make an offer to purchase the property, which would allow you a due diligence period to do several things. One of those things is, most of you that own your home, you know, when you went under contract for your home, you got to inspect your house, where you get to inspect the property. You get to determine, you get to do an environmental phase 1. If anything shows up, you get to do an environmental phase 2. If you don't like the results of those environmental studies, you cancel the contract without any financial penalty whatsoever. The other thing that you get to do is you also get to make sure the property can hold a school. You also get to have an appraisal of the property done to make sure you're not wasting your money and spending too much on the property than what your appraiser says it is, or what it's worth. So you will get a pretty extensive due diligence period where Mr. Fearley and some of our vendors, you know, that do the environmental studies and the survey and some of the other studies like the appraisal, will be working very hard, and then we'll bring you back a lot of information. And I just wanted to reiterate, I kind of informed you all that the other day, I just want to make sure you reiterate it to you again. So,
I would just like to say that I really appreciate all the folks coming to express their concern about this intermediate school. It's nice to hear from people in the public. I'd really like to thank Joe Belcher and David King for taking an interest in this and really playing a part in helping make this happen. It is nice that, I agree, I kind of feel like Mr. Collins' comments have kind of been ignored a little bit in the county. I will say that, you know, if we could go back to 2007 and punt over again, we probably would have built the Inca School as one of the first 2. When the economy went south, it kind of changed the demographics around the county a little bit, and so, or we may have decided to do all 3 of them. But at that time, that was, you know, we felt was the best decision, was to start with Irwin and T.C. Robertson, and then you know, look at doing the Inca district a little bit later. So I think this is a great step forward, and we do have a due diligence period where a lot more information will come to us about the proposed piece of property, and it's in an excellent location. I don't think we could find a better location for this school, and considering what's going to be happening around that area, this is going to be, I mean, I can't express what an asset this is going to be to our community, and so I'll be voting for it.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask Dr. Baldwin a question? And Dr. Baldwin, if this is something you need to get back to us, but for memory purposes, just to help me and maybe for the public too, the Article 39 money, and I'm aware of the history of that, but there are some changes, it looks like, coming on the utilization of that, and how does that, or does it apply to the potential building of this school, whether it be at this site or another site, as it relates back to the work session that we had in early May. If you could just kind of not rehash it, but summarize that again, for not just for the board, but for the public as well.
I appreciate that question. I may ask for support from Mr. Fairley, and I know that Mr. Socha's here as well. If the board recalls, we actually discussed during that budget work session, we actually projected 5 and 10 year projection of our best guess in looking at the crystal ball. And if you recall, what was included in that initial span was exactly what you're being asked to approve tonight, along with the actual purchase of property. It was also included in terms of the projections, and Mr. Socia worked up slides for this board that included the use of Article 39 for the funding of this school over a period of time. Or Socia, I think I'm correct. And in response, Ms. Ballman brought up a point about the use of Article 39, which I think is your question regarding the flexibility and technology. And I too have been in close contact with Nathan Ramsey, and it appears at this point in time that there is a good chance that we will have that flexibility. But if you recall, we actually put that technology purchase in the projections that Mr. Socia showed us, right, and showed the board. So, you know, Mr. Belcher, I think, referenced this again. Article 39 funding, we're extremely fortunate in Logan County Schools. You've heard me say this over and over again. But that undesignated funding would allow us, as projected, to have both the flexibility and the technology to do some incredible things for our kids, along with seeing this over a period of time come to fruition for our Inca community regarding the intermediate school.
Thank you. And is it too simplistic to say that in the Article 39 money, as it's used, it keeps us from floating a bond, in essence, is what it does. The 810, one of the guests tonight, I think it was 810 million bond that Wake County is about to do and put before their voters. We have the ability, the legislature has given us this ability to use that money for these types of projects going back to 1980 something, I forget what year, 83. So I'll be supportive of this. I was supportive, and Mr. Reinhardt knows we were both on the board, as well as Mr. Plass. We grappled with this for a long time in not doing it when it was brought to us back in 2007, after you and I and Mr. Plass had been on the board for a while, but after we had just come on the board. And it was something that was supported by all the board, and we made a decision based on the information we had at the time, as you mentioned, that now we have an opportunity, and it's been presented to us that an opportunity to change that and to, I don't want to say fix it, because I don't think we broke anything, but we made a decision at the time that we felt was best based on the information we had. And now we have different information and a different decision to make tonight, and I'll be supportive of moving into this due diligence period, entering into a contract. And some things may come to us out of this that say to us, this is not what we should do. And if it does, then I'm fine with not doing it at that point. But I think we need to move forward with this and go forward with the due diligence
And I did
this
have
time.
one last thing to mention. Now, if you look at your facility report, I don't know if everybody brought theirs since we're talking about this tonight. The Inca district membership trends cover a 12-year period. And if you look at the peak for every one of these schools in the Inca district, you'll see that Inca High School is down by 100 students. And Inca Middle School has stayed relatively flat. It's about the same enrollment now as it was in 2001. Sand Hill Elementary is down by 20 students from their peak. Candler Elementary is down by 42 students from their peak. Hominy Valley is down by 48 students from the peak. And Pisgah Elementary has also stayed flat too, as far as the enrollment of students. There is nothing in this report that indicates a need for an intermediate to build a new school. We will be wasting $22 million on brick and mortar when we have other options that are fiscally responsible and maybe more beneficial to our students as well. when we opened the Coons School, we had to ask the commissioners for $1.2 million to operate that school on a yearly basis. So we're looking at another, not only the $22 million to build the school potentially, but operating costs as well in the future. So I haven't seen a financial plan for this school. I haven't seen the environmental report as far as what NC Diener has found on the BASF property. I haven't seen a report on our competition in the education market as far as the charters. I haven't seen, an analysis, a risk assessment, looking at what are we giving up in order to build this brick and mortar school. So this board needs to do due diligence, needs to ask these questions, needs to hold a public hearing so that parents know all the options that are out there, not just one option, and that we hear and get their input before we make a decision.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't have any. No.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Good. Next on the action agenda are the minutes from the May 2nd, 2013 open session. Is there a motion to approve those?
I move that we accept those minutes.
Is there a second? Good.
Mr. Chairman, could you say again which ones? I was
we're-
shuffling some papers. Which ones were you?
May 2nd,
May 2nd.
2013 open session.
Open session. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, any questions or comments?
I did send amendments, corrections, 2 corrections to those minutes to all board members. I was corrected one statement that was totally false. If you went back and listened to the audio track I sent to everyone, you would have seen that that was not true.
Ms. Baldwin, will you
like
state
to-
your amendment?
Well, we're discussing right now.
But you wanted to amend, correct?
I will, yes. I'm amending the motion to accept the 2 corrections that I sent everyone.
I know. Ms. Jackson, do you have those? Does everybody have a copy of these so they know what Ms. Baldwin's talking about?
Received an email.
Received them by email.
All right, so we have a motion to amend the minutes. Is there a second?
Should we read the amendments first, Mr. Chapman?
Well, that's why
I mean,
that's my preference, if you state what the amendments are instead of
Okay,
just
I'm
what I
trying
said.
to get to my copy.
But if everybody has a copy of what you submitted, I'm fine with.
Yes, I corrected the statement that I expressed opposition to the high school, STEM high school, due to my opinion that Vapor Intrusion was present in the building, and I have never said that Vapor Intrusion was present in the building. Changing that to, Ms. Baldwin expressed opposition to the STEM high school location due to concerns that the renovation may introduce vapor intrusion into the building. Contaminants have been migrating this way, and the contaminant plume has not been delineated. Ms. Baldwin stated that we have less costly and safer options, such as a school within a school like Asheville High SILSA program, or putting a STEM high school at a local college with the goal of reaching as many students as possible in STEM education.
Okay. Can we just take these one at a time? Would that be all right?
Yes, that's
All right.
fine.
So Ms. Baldwin has made a motion and has stated her motion for the record. It just needs a second, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Okay, we'll move on to the next one.
Ms. Baldwin, do you want to state it?
Yes, it's in reference to page 1063 of the minutes, the AC Reynolds Heights Middle School lease extension for the county fire department. It said a brief discussion followed, and then it had Dr. Baldwin's comments, but to put them in context, I recommended that we put, Ms. Baldwin asked Mr. Shatley if Buffalo County Schools was charging the Reynolds Fire Department for leasing school property. Mr. Shatley responded that a nominal $1 fee was charged, and that, I did express that I was glad that only a minimal amount was being charged. So I superintendent says, we should put down what the board says.
Okay, is there a second? All right, so back to the original motion. All in favor of the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm opposed because the
Okay,
truth
thank you.
is not.
Thank you, Ms.
it's
Baldwin.
false
Thank you, Ms.
statement.
Baldwin. All right, we're going to move on to the personnel report. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel report?
I so move.
Okay. Wait a minute. Maybe I should back up. Do I have a motion to approve the amended personnel report?
I move that we approve the amended personnel report.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Ms. Baldwin, I think you wanted to make a,
Right, I move that we amend the motion on the floor to pull out the child nutrition director position and vote on it separately.
okay. Do we have a second to the amendment?
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry.
as the personnel report being a grouped together item, that doesn't require a second. That can just be done at Ms. Baldwin's request.
Okay.
Like at the consent agenda.
Okay, so we're going to pull out the child nutrition director, and we're going to be voting on the entire amended personnel report minus the child nutrition director.
Mr. Chair, I will abstain from that vote as I have a family member who is a change in contract that's a part of that, so I will not vote for the full personnel report.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Sorry, we're back to the full report. except for
Minus,
child-
minus the child nutrition director. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, personnel report, we're voting on the person, the Director of Child Nutrition. Do I have a motion to approve? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Can we have a slight discussion as long as it's not about the individual?
Be very precise.
I'm going to have to caution you, the board, no, that you had a discussion in closed session, very in-depth, and I just feel like
We're treading
it's
through
going to be too
it now.
difficult not to talk about a particular person in your comments. So I'm going to advise the chair no.
I just wanted to mention.
I'm going to advise the chair no.
Mr. Chair, what was this on?
I will advise you to be very careful with what you say.
I feel the child nutrition director needs to be a licensed.
Oh, all right, we're
a
going to stop
registered
right there.
dietitian.
We're going to stop right there, okay? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Good. All right, next is naming of the acting school finance officer. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Good. Give me just 1 second.
Yep. And well, yes, we are. But you see the memo before you. One of the particular reasons this has to be done is by law, you've got to have a finance officer because only the school finance officer can sign certain things.
Documents.
Right.
So upon Ms. Parker's
So
wish, you
vote
could
no, Ms.
reconsider
Parker can't
retirement.
leave?
Yeah, if you vote no, Ms. Parker cannot leave.
Slavery is in.
Was that the 13th Amendment or? So basically, you need somebody who can stamp certain documents, acting finance officer, and certain writs and those sorts of things. So it is an acting position until you find a replacement. And even when you find a replacement, it takes 2 or 3 weeks for the plates to be printed for that person. And even when that person starts, you're still going to have an acting finance officer because of that role.
And I guess we need to be careful here that if there's any discussion, we don't get into the particulars of any particular employee.
Correct.
That's correct. Does everyone understand that? Does everyone understand this?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So any questions or discussion?
I do have some discussion. I believe that Ms. Parker has a CPA license. Is that
All right,
correct?
we're going to stop right there. Okay.
Well, I believe that should be a qualification for an acting finance.
Ms. Baldwin?
That's
May
all.
I just say something, please? I do not have a CPA.
Okay, all right.
I have a Master of Public Affairs, which is much more applicable to the position.
All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Next is the recommendation for live GPS on the buses. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the,
Go ahead.
I'll defer to you.
Oh, I would love to approve a live
Okay, we
GPS.
have a motion, and Mr. Brown, would you like to second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any questions or discussion?
A little levity.
I had a question about Synovia, the company that has been chosen. Mr. Hopkins, still true. I just wondered, I know there was a list of a lot of different school districts that are using Synovia for their GPS. Is that, did you talk with any of those districts, and I just wondered how satisfied they were with the product?
Yes, they were very satisfied. What we did, when we first started talking with Synovia, there were 16, now they're at 18. We put out emails and phone calls to each one of them, and as many as we can get back, everyone we talked to were all satisfied. And I would say that was at least half, or just slightly over half.
And would this device help us with more efficient busing? You know, if we chose to look into a district, maybe like Robertson, with a high density, to do three-tier busing, let's say in the future, if we looked into this, is that device something, would that help us in any way to determine the routes?
The device itself, it does a great many things. As far as in relation to looking at the possibility of three-tier busing again, it would probably be a tool that could be looked at. As far as what we've looked at in the past and the criteria that when it was looked at before, I could not say this time if that would change any of that criteria as far as the results that we're seeing before.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Huff, for the sake of time, I'd ask you to be very concise with this, but you have spoken to this board and to the public about the overwhelming advantage that this system brings from a safety standpoint. Could you please concisely address that?
Sure, and like I said, there are basically three things. There's the cost savings, the operational efficiency, and like I said, the last one and the most important one to me is the safety, which Dr. Bowen just talked about. The things, this is one of the items on the Safe Schools Task Force initiative, and what a great opportunity to actually check one of those items off as we discussed how important it is. It doesn't take long as you look into the news as far as Sandy Hook and the events in Alabama. And even just recently, I just noticed that in the wake of the tornadoes, buses were used in the evacuation, whether that was school children or people in the public. Being a National Guardsman, I've reacted to hurricane duty many a time in which buses were used. Any of the times those things come up, it's just a matter of the comfort that you have, being able to tell a crisis coordinator that's in charge of an operation, the community that is asking, where are my children at right now as they're moving to a remote evacuation site. Right now, as it stands, it's a matter of calling on a phone, calling the last contact, did the buses leave the schools? When you can, any of those events that are happening on the year, the safety that I feel and the comfort I feel about having this kind of a program is telling a superintendent, telling a crisis coordinator, I need those buses at such and such a school, where are they? And I can click on a computer and I can say, just to give an example, they're turning on Concord Road right now, they'll be at the school in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next on the action agenda, student picture package recommendation for 2013-2014. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any questions or discussion?
I just had a question, only because I got a child that will be a senior next year, and it's Mr. Interrell there. Does this, I've already gotten 3 letters from Prestige Portraits about my daughter's photos, and I'm just confused because it says this is the 2013-14 school year and the bid package, so what I've gotten, is that from last year's bid?
I'm
assuming so. I have not sent
I
this
can't
out
believe- I
to them
really
yet.
got, she got an appointment and everything, and I thought, have you bid it out and Prestige?
I have not bid it out yet. I was waiting for board approval
Well,
to bid that
I don't know
out.
what to do, because I'm thinking, her appointment is Monday, and, Prestige is, we haven't even approved it yet. And I've got 3 letters.
Right. I can't answer that for you. All I can tell you is this is a picture package, and it has not gone out yet. I was waiting for board approval before I sent that out to all the companies that do the picture formats.
Can you check into this, because if they're illegally, I don't want to waste my time going to
Well,
make pictures.
I think any company that does photographs, they can send out flyers in the
We got
mail.
an official letter from the principal at Reynolds High School saying that Prestige, and maybe somebody can answer, your principal, help me. Are you going to recommend this?
Can-
Would the chair like me to make a comment?
Yes.
I was with our graduates practicing for graduation, junior something, just a couple days ago, and our yearbook sponsor walked in and said, here are the letters from Prestige about the summer photo, so they want us to hand them out, and I gave them to our kids. Maybe I made a mistake, I guess I didn't realize
Now,
that.
I can look into
So
it.
it went out
I don't
our
think this
folks.
is anything illegal, but I mean, it's,
Look
we
into
can
it.
look into it.
Yeah.
We can decide if we don't want to include them in the bid process.
That'll work.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Would you please forward your letters to?
Yeah.
Actually, I have them with me right now.
Okay,
If
I'll-
you take copies, I'll give them to you right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, attempt to purchase Dell Latitude laptops. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions?
I'm sorry, I was copying to mention level.
Is there any questions about the Dell Latitude laptops?
I guess I just wanted to know about the process of choosing that particular model of laptop, and I think they're costing like $650 each approximately. I just wondered what considerations were made in choosing Dell, because there are cheaper options out there. Mr. Fuchs, Dr. Fuchs, still here?
I'll be glad to get that information to you.
Okay, can we postpone the vote, or does it matter until we have that information?
You would need to make a motion that we postpone the consideration of this motion, or table the motion.
Okay, I move that we table the motion until we can get more information.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's just put it off until June, the end of June.
I have a quick question. Will that affect the purchasing
Don't know.
price of these? I mean, any contracts or
It
anything
could
by delaying it?
possibly. And I would caution the board, just because there's a cheaper version of the laptop.
Doesn't mean it's better.
That's the particular device we should be using. I know Dell is, there's a considerable number of Dell laptops within this system, so knowing Dr. Fuchs, he is very adept at checking all the various options and making sure it's the right fit for the Buckley County school system.
Okay.
I didn't get the full vote on that motion, and there's been some comments. I would recommend redo that.
All right, so we have a motion from Ms. Baldwin to delay this vote until the next meeting in June, at the end of June 28th, I believe. I seconded the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
2, all opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, back to the original, the intent to purchase. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm
All opposed?
abstaining from the vote
Okay.
because I don't have enough information.
Okay, great. Insurance contract for 2013-14 recommendation. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Good, is there a second?
I can second that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any questions or discussion?
I have some questions. I guess Mr. Ventura is still here.
Maybe I should just stay up here.
Probably a good idea.
We voted that down.
Well, we'll vote on it again. I thought it was good. I didn't think there was any way there'd be 3 votes against that.
All right, your question, Ms. Baldwin?
Yeah, I really appreciate all the great information you gave us on the quotes. That was fantastic. I noticed there were some increases. I'm still waiting for the page to load on the computer, but do you have anything else you can tell us about, why some of these increases, have occurred?
Actually, I have Zach Wright, who's our insurance agent with Surrey Insurance, and he can probably better explain what's going on in the market than myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, come on.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Zach Wright, and I'm with Surrey Insurance.
Ms. Baldwin, you have a question?
Well, I was wondering about the increases, if that had anything to do with the things that have happened here as far as liability issues, or if it is just an increase across the board for all school districts.
Good question. For the property insurance, it is more a question of, or I guess, what is happening in the marketplace in general with, I guess, superstorms like Sandy, tornadoes like we're having in Oklahoma and other places, and the reinsurance that primary insurance carriers have to purchase. Best example I could give to you of that, if one business were disrupted by a windstorm, most likely that insurance carrier would pay the entire claim. But when you have a hurricane like Sandy affecting tens of thousands of businesses, schools, they are purchasing reinsurance, helps them spread their risk. Those are the folks that are raising their premiums and are forcing that to be passed along to customers.
How does it affect our premium, the fact that this building is on a hazardous waste site?
Ms. Baldwin, please.
Well, I would like to know, this is a liability concern.
In terms of property insurance, I don't know that there is any effect. There is an absolute pollution exclusion in your property policy, and there is also a pollution exclusion in your liability policy.
So does that mean we wouldn't be covered if we were sued because someone had cancer from breathing TCE or something?
That is correct. That is correct.
So we are excluded. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Superintendent, I want it noted publicly that that is a clear act of disinformation being provided to the public under the guise of asking a question to our specialists regarding insurance. That is pure disinformation.
I passed out the letter to the entire
Pure
board.
disinformation.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
I passed out the board information here from NCD, or it states in this
All right, we're
paragraph,
gonna
that this
move
is part
forward.
of the
We are
hazardous
moving
waste
forward, Ms.
site at
Baldwin.
128 Bingham
Ms.
Road.
Baldwin, you are out of order. We're moving forward. All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Good. All right. Renewal for driver's education contract.
Chair, I'm sorry, what was the vote? Was Mrs. Baldwin voting for or against?
All right, if you voted for the insurance recommendation, please raise your hand. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, renewal for the driver's education contract with Mountain Professionals. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move that, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions?
I have a question. I know we're awarding the contract to the same company again, based on the fact that they have done a good job, I guess, and that they are the only contractor providing this service in Western North Carolina. However, I'm sure there are providers in other parts of the state. I would like to see this bid out, because anytime, I know I'm familiar with contractors. My husband worked for several different government contractors, so every time somebody else got the contract, nothing changed for his job. He was hired by the new company. So what would happen, I'm sure, if another person got the contract, they would hire the same people to work as the instructor, so the quality wouldn't suffer. board, and maybe I don't have a question for you, Mr. Venturella, but just that we amend the motion, that we will table this decision until we can bid this out to get, you know, the best price possible for this service. And it seems we've established a monopoly by our actions of always hiring the same person without bidding it out. I don't want that to seem to be improper for this board. I think it would increase our, you know, integrity if we do bid this contract out. So,
Have a motion?
Can I?
Well, we have a motion to amend. Is there a second?
I think it's really a motion to table.
Okay, motion to table.
to table
To table.
until
Okay.
we can bid it out.
All right, is there a second? Okay, Mr. Venturella?
To your concern, I've looked at the market, and it hadn't changed from last year. Landscape is still the same. The next two closest is Raleigh and Pittsburgh, and they are charging $45 per student.
To their students.
To their students.
All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Contract proposal for Edlin Intermediate School. Is there a motion to approve?
Chairman,
School, I'm sorry. Let me back up. School lunch price for 2013, 2014. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any questions?
I do have questions. Bernie Soccia here.
I think Mr. Venturella can do a great job if you want to.
By the way, Bernie, we're gonna miss you, buddy.
We sure are.
You know, again, I'm concerned about the hike for lunch prices. I do know this comes from the federal government mandating that we do this, and it's for a good cause as far as having healthier lunches. At the same time, I'm concerned about the competitive food sales. If we're going to continue to sell the junk food in the cafeteria, perhaps we don't need to hike the price. If we're going to make, you know, profit, so to speak, by selling the Little Debbie's or the...
Ms. Baldwin, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm trying to discern whether we need a price hike or if we're making enough money with competitive food sales, or are we going to go to a more nutritional model and offer healthy snacks?
Well, you answered your own question because this is a federal government requirement.
Well, it is, we have the option, as you know, from taking money from our fund balance, our general fund balance, to pay the difference. So we don't have to go up on students.
I guess there's a couple of issues there as far as the choices that would be provided for the supplemental sales. We are moving in a completely different direction as far as that's concerned. The impact of that on the overall revenue, there's different thoughts on that. We're looking very actively at finding appealing alternatives. And so hopefully that there'll be a minimal impact on the sales. As far as that applies to the price increase, we have an obligation to increase either the price or, as you mentioned, using local dollars. So the option before us would be this increase or to use the local dollars, and which is what you're voting on this evening.
Thank you very much.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. All right, contract proposal for Edlin Intermediate School. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the proposal for Edlin Intermediate.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions? All in favor?
Well, I have a question. I don't know who to ask it to.
Probably missing your mind.
Okay. And this sounds like a fantastic plan, using the Title I money. Again, I'm not opposing this at all. I just want to know, the reason for it, I guess. It said that this particular service, for $160,000, I'm sorry, my page is not loading.
I can give you a little
Here's the
background. This is a national institute called Lead and Learn, and as a school system, we have used their materials. It's excellent. They're highly proven. You might have heard of 90 schools, and what they do, they help schools look at needs assessment, best practices, very, very intensive coaching, very similar to our early college model. And on-site coaching occurs, teachers work in data teams, and it is ramped up. It's more than our central office staff can do as well. And it helps the school look at themselves and have better success with students. 90% on grade level would be the goal, 90% free and reduced lunch students, and 90% students who come to school with challenges. So it is taking the most challenging students and providing research-based professional development. Because Evelyn will be a Title I school, they have the choice through their school improvement process to plan to use their monies as they see fit, and they've attended conferences and done their research on this institution.
Is there any performance data available for Evelyn? I know it's relatively new. This service is recommended, I guess, they said for lowest performing schools. So I was concerned. I don't know if that indicates that there is a problem at Evelyn or anything.
No, and we don't have test data because it's all new assessments this year, but it's still a new school. They're building a new program. So Lead and Learn will take them from where they are and move them forward.
Are there any other schools using that program?
Bruce Drysdale in Henderson County
Okay.
has used it this year, and we visited that school and had great visits there. And we have all attended smaller conferences on 90-90-90.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
The hour grows late.
I'll second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have several policies for first reading in 2000 series. We have some supplemental line item details for budget amendment number 7. Ms. Baldwin, you got a question you wanted to ask Dr. Baldwin?
As far as policy 2122, since we're not voting on these tonight, this is our opportunity to make suggestions or ask questions. What we find.
Mr. Chairman, wasn't this presented to us in a board workshop? And we had an opportunity at that point to discuss and then to also, by a set date, to offer our other thoughts, suggestions, changes, et cetera. Did I miss one, or?
Yeah. Were any of those changes incorporated into these policies, Suzanne? Put you on the spot.
I did not receive changes electronically.
Right, but we mentioned them at the meeting. I think that was the purpose of the work session.
Really, the only real change that I remember was in 2220. And unfortunately, that change did not get made. It's supposed to say the message is the opinion of, and the change would be the addition of blank.
Right.
And it is
I
not
brought that
intended to
up.
represent. That did not get in there. The board talked a lot about 2122, but never really nailed down an actual change. I think what they talked, you guys talked about what happens when you get a constituent concern, and should you go to Dr. Baldwin? I remember Dr. Baldwin saying, yes, please come to me. And then I think Ms. Churchill asked about going, if I get something about school, go to the principal, and I think Dr. Baldwin addressed that. I can't remember exactly how he addressed that. But I brought my notes, and I can't remember any other specific actual changes, Ms. Baldwin, but we can certainly, if the board wants to see a change, you still have another reading, so we can certainly add one back in there.
Okay. It it might be faster and easier if I just emailed any of these things. I was under the impression that the work session purpose, was to get some of these changes done there as well.
Well, I think if it's just one person requesting a change, I don't know that we're gonna make a change for one person. I think if several folks have the same concern, then I think that's something that, we could look at again in the next work session, but.
Right, and I think, just let me highlight the one policy that's the biggest concern here, and that would be 2124. And I know Ms. Churchill wasn't on the board last June when the majority approved a procedure that incorporated some of these different things, but it was not put in board policy. As you know, Representative Tim Moffitt requested an advisory on this procedure from the Attorney General. And we received a letter from Thomas Psycho, his assistant, and he said he only addressed the fourth paragraph of this procedure, as well as the last one, and did not address the fact that this policy establishes the superintendent as a gatekeeper, and that all questions and requests for information from board members have to go through the superintendent. We cannot ask staff, the central office staff, questions. As a private citizen, I can ask the central office staff questions, but as a board member, I cannot.
That's actually not true.
That's not true.
A records custodian, asking for records of a records custodian under the law is different than asking for information. Records, information may not be in a record. Asking for a record is a completely different scenario than asking for information. For instance, if Mr. Joe Citizen calls up Ms. Blunt and says, Ms. Blunt, what's the school board budget this year? Ms. Blunt is not obligated to answer that question. I'm sure she would, but she's not obligated to answer that question. If he asks, can you get me a copy of the budget, Ms. Blunt would be obligated under the law to provide a copy of the budget. There is a distinct difference, and this policy makes that distinct difference regarding records and information.
So I guess I need a better definition for information request. Does this mean at a board meeting that I cannot ask questions of the staff or before the board meeting? If I have questions about documentation on the agenda, I cannot ask the staff. I have to ask Dr. Baldwin. So what am I going to do?
Well, you asked plenty of questions tonight, so they were all answered.
I do my due diligence for my constituents.
So, to say that
But this
they
hasn't
didn't answer
passed
your
yet.
questions.
Once this is approved,
This
will I
has
be
been
able to ask
approved, not as
questions?
policy, but it's been approved as procedure for the board.
Well, and if you recall the letter that was sent, that was requested by Representative Moffitt, basically the Department of Justice said that what we're doing, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a board policy.
Well,
If 4 members of our board vote for it, then we can make it policy.
They didn't address the request for information because there's even been a court case in Buncombe County.
Well, maybe you can send that to them and ask for that, but, I mean, as far as, they backed up the,
That court case was on records, not
That was
information.
about asking,
It's about records.
citizens having to go through Wanda Green, the
For
county
records.
manager. And the
For
citizens
records.
won because they didn't have to do that.
For records.
But our policy includes records. It also includes the paragraph about information requests when I'm asking questions.
No, it
And-
doesn't include records. It talks about information.
Let me read it. All board member requests for information from central office staff must be directed to the superintendent. Requests shall not be directed to other staff.
Information.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I'm asking for, like tonight, I wasn't asking for public records. I was asking for information. That means, this policy means I can't ask questions during the board meeting.
Superintendent can
I
ask
have to
his
ask the
staff.
superintendent, and he can ask Ms. Parker or
I guess
whoever.
so, if that's the way you want to interpret it, that formally.
I mean, that's what I'm concerned about, asking before we vote on this in August, or the end of June, whenever we vote. I need to know.
I have a question.
Okay.
Would it make it easier to understand, abide, whatever, if you added all board member requests for information from central office staff outside of the actual board meeting must be directed to the superintendent? Would that clear it up at all?
You asking me?
I'm just asking anybody out there.
That's one thing.
I'm just wondering if that will alleviate any concerns of,
That's
being-
obviously fine with me. I would defer to Dr.
What
Baldwin.
we'll do is, we'll take this up in the next policy work session. We'll discuss it a little further, and we can determine if we need to make some changes in the wording, how that work for everyone.
Mr. Chair, again, I just hope we don't lose sight of the big umbrella of rationale for looking at this type of policy. And first and foremost, I think it was for courtesy of our central office staff because of the amount of information that was being requested through various sources. I think the other rationale is just simply efficiency and consistency. I think coming through my office allows, first and foremost, to identify who the best expert is on our staff to provide an answer. And again, I've challenged every single one of you to identify where you have asked for information and it has not been provided to you. Granted, this is a large system, and I can tell you over the last 3 weeks going in the home stretch, we are all busy. And so as those requests come in, there has to be consideration for the time of the school year. And first and foremost, I think you have charged all of us from this board with keeping in front of us the daily operations of the school. And sometimes I think that can get skewed by maybe the perception of how important that information is immediately. But again, I hope as we take this to a work session that we do not lose the overriding rationale for these policies. Because I think myself as superintendent, and I can assure you, our central office staff was very loud and clear regarding your help and your support to establish these type of guidelines for the sake of our kids, based upon the efficiency of us being able to put our 100% attention on what's in the best interest of the students. And that is not to retrieve information at the drop of a hat for any one or more board members. Thank you.
Next meeting will be Friday, June the 28th, and then after that, we'll not have a meeting in July, it'll be August the 1st.
Mr. Chairman, is that time right for the 28th? I thought that was a morning meeting. Is that a 1 o'clock meeting? It is 1 o'clock, okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't a typo or something.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? So moved. All right, all in favor?
Aye.